So, uh, what we had talked about is the concept of the notion of identity. Today, we are talking about Marxist critics. So now we talked about objective in the previous session, and now today we will be talking about another thing. Another thing very important is that what passes as truth. You know, what passes as truth is not internal but institutionally created. That is a very important thing. Rather after that, when you read Foucault or when you read Derrida, this concept of truth will come to haunt you. That what is truth? What is truth? Truth is a created information according to Marx, and it is institutionally created. In latter age, you will find that Foucault is saying that the institution that enjoys power in the society uh, creates truth. And Marx is almost saying the same thing much before Foucault, that truth is institutionally created. For example, like think about what is happening around. Someone is being termed as outsider. Someone is saying that there was no evidence of Ram Mandir in the Ayodhya sector. Then someone said that there was one. This type of things are happening. I'm not going to go into any kind of debate. But these informations, like in the Congress age, we talk so many things about so many like think about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, or rather leave of this political. We are given a truth that he died in the plane, and suddenly we know, suddenly we all feel inside that there is a kind of conspiracy about Lal Bahadur Shastri. We were given that he died normally out of heart attack, and then there is a theory that he was murdered. Then we even in this Sushant Singh Rajput case, the very near one. First, it was said the police, all everyone said that it was a suicide, and then suddenly it is coming out he committed or he was rather murdered. So, what is the truth? What is the truth about it? Think about a person who has not committed a crime, but in spite of that has suffered a jail of 30 or 40 years. Can you tell that this very person is rather uh, not a victim of the state? So this is the thing. Okay, so this is the thing that I want to tell you, that truth, truth is always controlled by power and controlled by institution, according to Marx. And then language. Language itself, as Marx said, is, or he said it in the book that the German ideology, part one, must be understood not as a self-sufficient system, but as a social practice deeply rooted in material conditions. So, language means, did he point out only the words we used, or rather what we mean by certain things? No, the use of language. The use of language. Language is not a self-sufficient system. That language is not something which comes from itself, or which rather makes us or binds us to use it like that. No. Rather, we use the language, and it is, or how we use it, is deeply rooted in the social practice and the material conditions. You can understand that the language of the academia is not as same as we talk outside in the friend circle, and the language which is used in the rather IT sector, you will not find that in Boro Bazar, or the language that is used in Bardhaman, a posh locality in Bardhaman, will not be used in a basti or a colony. You can understand that. So, language is evolving, language is changing according to the surround, and it is very important, to find the class of the people, economic class of the people from language. Like I would say, I would refer you to read the drama Tennessee Williams, A Streetcar Named Desire, and there, uh, I would not say the heroine, but the female characters are from a sophisticated background, whereas the most of the male characters are from factory level. And you can understand the difference of the words chosen by them, the way they are speaking. And therefore, language can indicate your class. Language can always indicate your. Doesn't that mean that, or it doesn't mean that a man from a sophisticated background doesn't use slang or doesn't use the language of the basti. But in most of the cases, the use of language as a whole, or rather, not only the way they are speaking, the subjects they are speaking on, and the way they are describing them. For someone, 100 rupee note is a wonderful, and for someone, 100 rupee note is just a negligible thing. He doesn't care about it. And the way they will talk about, pronounce about 100 rupees, like a very rich person, take it, it's 100 rupees. And for a child who belongs to a humble local, 100 rupee note, you are giving me 100 rupee note. So think about it, how language is being used. Okay, so that is deeply rooted in the material value. Next, the understanding of art itself as commodity, sharing, and entry into material action. So now it is a very interesting thing that Marx is deriving. That Marx is deriving a new thing. Like we have seen art before Marx, like something which is rather a very sophisticated thing for the rich people, and then suddenly we are seeing art as a commodity, as a material, from the very material aspect of production, like the selling of artifacts, the selling of art, pricing arts suddenly. So that is a new thing that Marx brought. A focus on the connections between class struggle as the inner dynamic of history and literature, as the ideologically refracted side of class struggle. So another thing is what we will do while reading about Marxist literary theory. We will be tracing this concept of class struggle in literature, in dynamic history. That is how social history, on the other hand, how social history, how the representation of class has affected literature, or how they are or they can be understood from this view. Okay. Typicality. Typicality of art. What Angel says, art should express what is typical about a class or a particular intersections of ideological circumstances. So you can see that Mr. Angels is giving us certain theory regarding how art should be, okay, how art should be, and according to him, it should express the features of class struggles, or rather the class division, or it should have the representation of a class, a specific class, and obviously it should represent ideology. Okay, like it should be based on theories that is related to society or next. So the first critic we will be talking about is Antonio Labriola, 1843-1904, and this man was born in Italy. And this man was the first one to attempt effective synthesis of Marx's thought, like to make a gist of what Mr. Marx had said. Or rather, Marx didn't give a theory. What Marx did was he was writing about society, and this man, he was writing about economy, and this man, for the very first time, started to brief them and rather give them a structure of a theory so that uh, it can be used or it can be uh, taken as a theory for future research. Although art and ideas can have no independent history, they are themselves a part of history in the sense that they too are casual agency in subsequent economic and superstructural development. That is what Labriola said. That is the gist of Labriola's Marxist understanding. And what is this? So he said, like almost like how you can understand Marxism, or rather this type of Marxist commentary about art by reading T.S. Eliot's Tradition and Individual Talent. Look at this. Art and ideas can have no independence. So therefore, no independent history. That means it has to be a part of a tradition. Or rather, suddenly at a certain historical time, it cannot just give rise to a certain form of art. Rather, behind that, there will be some social conflicts, some social dialectics, some social evolution that will ultimately give rise to a specific genre of art and idea. They are themselves a part of the history in the sense that they too are casual agency in subsequent economic and superstructural development. That means, directly art is being seen as agency in economic and superstructural development, like from both ways. It can be seen from both ways. Like if you have time, if you have casual time, if you have rest time, so that you can relax, you can create art. If you have within yourself, you have rage, you have discomfort, you can create art. On the other hand, you can use art as a kind of production, as a kind of industry, and what you can do is that you can sell art, and therefore they can demonstrate a piece of art, how it is being sold, or what it represents, who has worked on it. They can give you the clue of the socio-economical understanding of the time. Okay, next. Franz Mehring. This man is from Germany, Prussia, 1846 to 1909. And now look at this man. This man founded German Communist Party in 1918, and the famous works that he did were Karl Marx, the story of his life. That is, he wrote about Karl Marx's life, and the Lessing Legend. So those were mainly works on the life and teachings of Marx, applied Marxist categories to the analysis of major German literary figures, and brought this within the reach of working class readers. So he did two important. First, major Germany literary works were analyzed from the point of view of Marxism. Okay? From the point of view of Marxism, major literary works were being analyzed. And literature, at first it was thought that literature was a thing that was meant for the rich people. But he translated them, or rather, he made them available for the working class reader. Literary criticism must be determined by economic infrastructure. This person also said that how will you criticize literature? Will you criticize literature from the point of view of theory? No. According to them, the literary criticism must now focus on economic infrastructure. Okay. Next, Karl Kautsky, 1854, 1938, Germany. What did he do? A propagandist for the Social Democratic Party, founder of the Marxist journal, Die Neue Zeit. Okay. Works, his famous works are Karl Marx Economic Teaching, 1887, The Foundations of Christianity. Do not think that he was teaching something which is very much religious, but he was seeing religion from the point of view of history, from the point of view of class struggle, and obviously from the point of view of Marxism. That means Foundation of Christianity was practically a book that will bring Christianity to the rather I would say to the ground of reality, from the ground of providence to the ground of reality. And then development in art and development in art. Another book is Art and Society, and another book is Artist and Worker. So therefore, you can understand that this man was concerned with art, but art from the point of view of society, and obviously look at the last one, art from the point of view of worker. Okay. He showed how religious ideas are tied to the level of artistic and industrial maturity allowed by a particular economic system. So, that's a very interesting argument. It's a very interesting argument how religious ideas are tied to the levels of artistic and industrial maturity allowed by a particular economic substructure. That is a basic economic substructure of the society gives birth to the religion, and the religion stretches as long as it is allowed by that economic substructure. And if you find, or if you practically go underneath any kind of religious structure, you can find that it, or rather the socio-economic condition has given rise to this. So just let me explain this from the point of view of Christianity. Christianity was Christ's religion, and when Christ preached it, no one accepted it. But suddenly, in the first century or second century AD, after Christ's death, uh, the Islamic control over Palestine and Jerusalem increased, and the European soldiers had to return. And therefore, they or the king had something, the king needed something to present to the people, to present to the people of Europe. So what is the achievement for so many years of invasion in the East, so many loss of people, so many loss of property, whatever you have done? What is the use of it? He had to answer. Otherwise, there would have been a civic revolt. The power of the king would have gone. And then his answer was Christianity. Okay, I have brought you the new way of life. Our old pagan religion of the Romans are not at all good. Therefore, what I have brought Christianity to you, the way of mercy. And then again, very interestingly, when the religious books of Christianity was composed, those narratives by the 12 disciples of Jesus all were banned. Because they would tell the truth about the Romans, that ultimately the Romans wanted to oppress Christianity. And Bible, the narrative we find today, are all done in 300 BC. Sorry, in 300 AD, when Church or the Christian Church of Vatican was formed, and when Christianity was taking a formal shape. So, can't you find behind this rather political, socio-economical reason? So, this is what the Marxist concept of literature is. And then next he developed the thesis that the major monotheistic religions arose in nations bound by nomadic way of life. They had not developed the industry of or art necessary to construct the localized human image of deities, which facilitated polytheism. Ironically, these more backward cultures could make a leap beyond polytheism to a higher form of religion whose progress, sorry, whose progress was retarded in an advanced society. So, what is this? This man said that the major monotheistic religion arose in nations bound by nomadic way of life. Like he said that monotheistic religion, ours is not a monotheistic religion, ours is a polytheistic religion because we have settled down in the course of history. And he said that when the tribes are nomadic, they practically concentrate on a single deity because they do not have time to concentrate on, or rather, to create in their mind the images of different deities, because they have to go from one place to another and settle down again and again and again. So these nomadic tribes, they are monotheistic. Therefore, religion, the way of people bring the concept of religion, is directly related, according to him, to the way of life, or rather to the way of economic life. Nomadism is obviously a kind of socio-economic structure. And next, he said that when a civilization, or rather a group of people settles down, then they cultivate or they create a kind of civilization. Then they have time to think about different deities, attributing different qualities to different figurines, building them or making their images. So now this is a very different thing. It's a very interesting thing that a civilized or properly stable civilization can only, or rather, in most of the cases, have done for polytheism. And according to him, ironically, these more backward cultures could make a leap beyond polytheism to a higher form of religion. So, according to him, interestingly, these more backward cultures could make a leap beyond polytheism to a higher form of religion, because progress was retarded in advanced society. So, he said that backward cultures, there are those who have settled down and those who have rather resorted to polytheism, they could go to a higher form, but they could not because their progress was retarded by advanced society. According to him, that means what he was trying to say. Was he trying to say that the nomadic way of life, the monotheistic religion were better? Possibly not. He was possibly trying to say that dividing the features into different gods were retarding rather their intellectual capability, or the development of the religion, and the development of the religion to a more rather effective, constructive way. And it was retarded by the civilization they had formed, that is, the advanced society they had. Okay, let's go to the next slide. George Plekhanov, 1856 to 1918, Russia. Father of Russian Marxism. Now from Germany, we are coming to Russia. Plekhanov is called the father of Russian Marxism. He is the founder of Russian Social Democratic Party. His works are Socialism and Political Struggle, Fundamental Problems of Marxism, Art and Social Life, Role of the Individual in History. And what are his sayings? Let us read one after another. Every talent which becomes a social force is a force of social relation. So, according to him, he is also like Hegel and like Marx, he is also going against the individual. According to him, individuality doesn't lie in character or individuality doesn't lie in human nature. But the individuality is also uh, rather a result of social relations of that individual with the society. Comes out of the reaction. Particular trends in literature or art do not depend exclusively on certain individual or their expression. It is determined by its significance to the class. So therefore, whenever something emerges out as a genre of literature, it doesn't depend on an individual. Rather, it is decided by the class. The acceptance of it and the spread of it, the significance of it is determined not by an individual or rather it is determined by a class. Art for art's sake, এটা আমরা এর আগে পড়েছি লিটারেচারে কোন মুভমেন্টটা যেন পড়তে গিয়ে পড়েছিলাম এবং রোজেটি ব্রাদার্স এর মুভমেন্টটা ছিল ওই মুভমেন্টটা পড়তে গিয়ে আমরা পড়েছিলাম আর্ট ফর আর্টস সেক ক্রিস্টিয়ানো জর্জিয়ানো রোজেটি brothers and sisters পড়েছিল so art for art's sake tendency arises when the artist is in hopeless discord with the social environment. So on the other hand, it says that no art is created for art's sake until or unless the artist is in hopeless discord with the social environment. If the artist cannot connect himself with the society, if there is no reaction as a result of the artist's relationship with the society, then only art for art's sake. Otherwise, in general, art is created as a reaction that comes out from the artist as a result of his relation to the society. The utilitarian. Okay, so the utilitarian attitude which grants art a function in social struggle as well as power of judgment concerning the real world arises and becomes stronger whenever a mutual sympathy exists between the individual interested in artistic creation and some considerable part of society. So, the utilitarian attitude which grants art a function in social struggle as well as power of judgment concerning the real world arises and becomes stronger whenever a mutual sympathy exists between the individual interested in art creation and a considerable part of the society. So, it's very important. Utilitarian attitude of art, that is, art as or art representing society, art becoming a commodity, art representing a class. This happens when an individual is not only concerned about his art or her art, but also is concerned about the society, thinks about the society, sympathy. Play, drama is dramatization of labor and useful activities. So you know, according to this man, dramas needs to be seen like this, as a representation of labor and useful activities, okay? Not as a mere fiction, not as a mere fiction, but representing the society, representing the people, representing their class struggle, okay? Utilitarian activities determines its context. So obviously practical utilitarian attitude will determine what will be the text. Next is Rosa Luxemburg, 1870 to 1919, Poland. We will end with Rosa Luxemburg. Okay. Migrated to Germany and joined the Social Democratic Party, was assassinated in 1919. She was killed. Okay. And the famous work that she did was the accumulation of capital. So straightforward, she was criticizing the accumulation of capital by the capitalists. She was going against the capitalistic society. And therefore, you can understand as well why she was killed. Was anxious to preserve an aesthetic form of art, said Dostoevsky and Tolstoy's doctrines were reactionary. So, therefore, directly, this is the first time we are saying that someone is not saying how this Marxist literature should be applied to literature, but someone is saying how the literature of the existing time can be read from the Marxist point of view. And obviously, being a German, she pointed out about Dostoevsky and Tolstoy and said that they were writing reactionary works. They were going against the social trend. They were just crashing, they were just booming against the capitalistic structure of the society. Their literature were reactionary. She praised their liberating effects on the readers and their profound response to social justice. Working class culture could not be produced within a bourgeois framework. So therefore he said that working class culture, if it can be represented in literature after all, if it can be represented in art after all, it could not be done from within a bourgeois economic framework. Bourgeoisরা এটা করতে পারবে না, ক্যাপিটালিস্টরা এটা করতে পারবে না, and that their workers for advancement in struggle of liberation had to create for themselves intellectual weapons. So the intellectual weapons have to be created by the proletariats themselves. They need to get educated. They need to think about themselves. They need to be vocal about themselves. Hey, they need to be vocal about themselves. They, by themselves. Otherwise, the bourgeoisie will never be acutely or actually sympathetic towards them. They will not represent them properly. Somehow, the bourgeois labor will be there. Only art and literature created by one who belongs to the proletariat class can only represent the proletariats in art and literature. This is what she has said. Okay, so I think today we will stop here. And next day we will have discussion on two very important men. One is Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, and the next one is Leo Trotsky. Those two, and then Gramsci we will read about. We will read about Brecht, then we will read about Frankfurt School, and then Althusser, Remo Williams, Gregory Lucas, Terry Eagleton. Okay, so this will be our course in the next two classes. Okay, in next two class we will complete this. Okay, so I think এবার তোরা একটু